The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
Hello everyone, welcome to Newcastle Fans TV. Third attempt. We shall try this. If you're listening on Nova Radio 102.5 FM, we've had a couple of technical issues, shall we say, with our software that it keeps deciding to crash, which doesn't help us once we are live. So apologies for the people and your kind patience on the first two streams, which are now being deleted. Let's hope that the software system that we use doesn't decide to crash on us. But tonight we are talking all about the Takeover. Yeah, the whole show, 2 hours of it. We've got 7 of the group. Almost every single person on Newcastle Fans TV is helping tonight, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to be live. Of course, we are live, so I have that responsibility to make sure everything that goes right, which isn't at the moment. But keep your WhatsApps coming through. I've already read some of them out. I'm not going to read out the ones that we have read out on the previous stream that did fail, because we'll be here all day. We're going to jump on straight to it with the latest on the Takeover. This is myself, Eisha and Kyle.
The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
Today in this section we're going to be talking about the Takeover. Not so much an update of just what people have been saying the past week and how we feel about it. I'm joined by the beautiful Eisha. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Very good.
But you're not as beautiful as Kyle. Kyle, how are you doing?
I know.
Absolutely not. There's only one me in the... Hi, Lee, you alright, man?
Champion, right. So, yeah, get your comments in. We'll love them. We'll read them out in your WhatsApp and so on. We've got loads to talk about. But we're just going to talk about what the press, I guess, and how we feel about the situation with the Takeover. So, Eisha, I'll come to you first. Now, with a Takeover brings daft names. I mean, you can throw Hollywood names in there. This week we've seen Vidal, we've seen Grealish, Cavani, all linked to Newcastle. Realistically, are these names that are just trying to get the papers, like clicks, ad revenue, or would we see, do you feel like we may see one big name similar to what Manchester City done with Robinho?
I think it's totally realistic, and I don't think I'm being naive in saying that, to be honest. I mean, we are the biggest club in the Northeast. We have the potential to be a giant. Like, everything is there. Vibrant city, intensity of the fan base, which everyone around the world knows, rich history. You know, we haven't won trophies in a while, but with a world-class manager and with new ownership who are hungry for success, I don't see why the top players in European football wouldn't find that attractive or appealing at all. Like, you mentioned Man City with Robinho, so he was obviously brought in to sort of like kickstart their new chapter. So that's a really good parallel to draw. And although he didn't do what they hoped for on the pitch, like when Vincent Kompany, when he talked about the statement it was of Robinho coming, he said that it just allowed the team to believe in themselves that bit more, and it brought a lot of confidence, just the statement of that signing. And Robinho only had like one full season at Man City, but he was their top goal scorer. So I think although there wasn't enough quality for him to work with in those very early stages of their takeover, he really put Man City on the international map. And in the same way, I don't see why we wouldn't, some top European player wouldn't head over to us and put us on the international map. If we're talking specifically about the rumours we've heard over the past few days, like Vidal, okay. So firstly, he's 32 years old. And I think out of all the rumours, this one did look like it had a bit more consistency to it, just because there was a Spanish publication who confirmed that he was definitely interested. He found it an attractive, appealing opportunity. He only has 1 year left on his Barca contract. And he did specifically mention that in terms of Allegri, if Allegri was to come on board, that plays a huge part in his decision. So I just think, yeah, there will be rumours flying around, but there are some of these which actually could materialise. Grealish, for example, like I haven't heard anything solid about Grealish, but I can totally see why he's been put up for discussion. He's led Villa through their first season back in the top flight, he really has been at the forefront with them. He's promising, he's exciting, he can entertain, he's brave. He'd be the perfect fit. And although it's probably not relevant because I'm not too sure if Steve Bruce would be able to stick around in the takeover, but they already do have that strong relationship from his Villa days. And Steve Bruce, as you know, said before, he's the crown jewel at Aston Villa. So whether or not Steve Bruce stays, he's definitely identified that he is a brilliant player and he would bring value to the team. With Cavani, my only apprehension is sort of similar to Vidal. He's a little bit older, isn't he? He's 33 years old now. So although he could be that statement signing that comes in and just draws all that attraction from, international football, we're only realistically going to get 1 or 2 seasons out of him, 2 at most. And I think if we are really looking at this new strategy where money's being put into the foundation or the academy, that focus would be on the growth of the academy. And in line with that, we'd probably want more the Grealishes, the younger, promising, exciting talent who we can really build the squad around, rather than just like the star player who's going to come in and, for the name, and we're not really going to get much out of him in longevity. So to answer your question, yes, I do think it's realistic that top European players from around the world will be looking at Newcastle as a really exciting prospect, and they'd want to get involved in this new chapter.
For me, I'd love to say Timo Werner, because we need a striker, and I think for me,
he's gone to Liverpool.
Oh, get him at the tune. Kyle, does money talk? Can we get one big name in?
I think Man City are living proof that money talks, Lee. So it's one of them. I mean, Eisha's completely correct. If these owners are serious, the one thing that they'd want to do is get the ball rolling fairly quickly, which would probably mean a big name would soon follow if they were to go in that direction. Now, in terms of names, it's all speculation. It's all up in the air who they would want. The only something solid that's there is what Vidal said to a source or something like that, what Eisha was going on about in depth there before. But other than that, it's all speculation from a media perspective. We don't know what's going to happen. If these owners come in, then it's more than likely going to happen in terms of where we'll look to bring in a better player that we've already got. But it's all speculation at this point, mate. I'd like to see a better player come in, especially centre forward. I mean, anything's an improvement on Joe Linton at the minute. So if you see something like Cavani or something like that, it's definitely exciting, that's for sure.
Poor lad, what's he ever done to you? Poor lad.
Not scored goals.
That's very true. Now, everyone's had this say this week, Eisha, you kind of switch on your TV without someone on Sky Sports or someone in the papers or someone online having their say. We've obviously had Mick Lowes and Warren Barton on this week as well. How confident are you now, Eisha, that the takeover is going? Where would you put yourself on a percentage?
And obviously, as Newcastle fans, we do have that caution when it comes to being excited about a takeover rumour. And of course, like, I've proved myself wrong. Although I've tried to remain really, really calm, it has reached that stage where it's looking more realistic than ever. And I think if we're talking like real time, Wednesday night, so it's obviously in the hands of the Premier League at the moment, they're doing their tests, but it was Wednesday night, so that was last night, that there was apparently it was published that no red flags have been raised since the last announcement the Premier League have made last week. So that's a statement in itself. I think my only 2 concerns were obviously the beIN Sports issue, which you'll talk about later, and obviously the amnesty issues, the human rights protesters which were against the whole takeover. So I understand there's a lot of pressure on the Premier League for many, many reasons surrounding the takeover. But the thing is, the test that they're doing at the moment, the fit and proper persons test, they're for individuals who will be directors at the club, and they disregard the political situation of the state where the money's coming from. So there's only so much that test will take into account. So even if the beIN Sports case is ongoing or the human rights issues are going on, it actually won't affect this test. And I think this is the last part of the process, the fit and proper persons test. And if £17 million has been put down as a deposit, and this is the last stage of the process, then forgive me for getting too excited that this is actually going to happen.
For me, cans are on ice, and I did tell Eisha to bring her cans, but she hasn't brought them yet, so she's not fully there just yet, Kyle. But when are we going to pop them cans open, Kyle? When's that going to happen?
I mean, it's not a foregone conclusion, Lee. I do have that caution that was spoke about before. I don't know the amount of letters that's been written about with amnesty and being sports. You never know. With Newcastle, with the look that Newcastle has, it'd be typical for the first Premier League fit and proper person's test fail to be Newcastle United and us be stuck with Mike Ashley. So I sit on the side of caution for now. But if it does go through, the Independent, I think, reported that it was going to be the 1st of May that we're looking at. So hopefully, get the cans ready for them. But obviously, don't expect to be drinking them just yet, because you never know when Newcastle. It's always a roller coaster. We'll never ever do anything easy, ever.
The big question after that, though, Kyle, is what you drinking?
J2O.
J2O.
It just drops. Leaving it. I know. It's quite a underwhelming hashtag cans, but I'll go on with it. Why not? Rob's with us at least.
Now, Yasser Al-Rumayyan, sorry if I haven't pronounced that correctly. Is set to
I'm sure he's watching, Lee.
I'm sure he
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll have an exclusive, I'll kiss his feet and everything. But he's likely to come in to be a chairman, as the report's going, with Lee Charnley set to stay on in a short period for the transition, you could say as well.
It is a transaction, to be fair, yeah.
How seriously do you take what they're saying in the paper as, again, with this potential chairman, Charnley, staying on in a grace period, if you want to call it that?
Yeah, see, I'm not too sure, because it is the norm. After a takeover, typically a chairman will stay over for that handover period. That generally is what happens. And I have read that he'll stay on for that handover period, and it does make sense. I mean, after 20 years of service, and just to make it a smooth transaction and ensure there are no teething problems, the new ownership will like that. But then I also have read that his employment will be terminated with immediate effect. Some articles have said that it will be immediate. So whatever the case, I mean, I am taking it with a pinch of salt, because these nitty-gritty things, really, it comes down to the strategy of the owners and how aggressively they want to push that from the start, and how they want to hold the reins over their, control of the club. And I think, in my personal opinion, it makes sense for him to leave. It makes sense for him to leave pretty much immediately. We have new ownership, we'll have new ambitions, a new culture of the club, and I think the fans just want skilled professional people deciding strategy and running the club, and he's not the most liked person in the club. So yeah, I'll take it with a pinch of salt, but I think it's best he pretty much immediately stops working as a chairman.
Said that nicely, because we're on the radio there. Well done. Kyle, do you see a massive change in terms of staff? They might bring in, say, 15 to 20 to either help with Bruce / new manager, or director of football, or more coaches, or more their own people on the board? Because at the minute, we've only got a one-man board with the Premier League side, which very strange. But do you see massive changes, or just the odd one or two?
No, I see a mass change. If these owners are going to come in, they'll want everything their own way. They won't want any of the current regime in place. If they've got anything about them, they will want a structure in place, and that's something that Newcastle haven't had in over 13 years since they took over the club. Anyone with a name of notoriety on the Newcastle board is incompetent and useless. Lee Charnley, don't let the door hit you on the way out, and Mike Ashley pretty much the same. If it is immediate, thank God, because we'll celebrate Lee Charnley leaving the football club just as much as we celebrate Mike Ashley leaving it. Trust me on that. Yeah,
there'll be some scenes in Newcastle, no doubt. We've seen...
Well, in the houses, isolationally, social distancing, now.
Hashtag stay home.
Actually, that might not happen. I don't see everyone abiding to that law. But yes, stay at home on a serious matter. Now, on social media, we've seen ASM, our favourite character, of course. Kind of, a bit of surprise with the meme going around with the guys, the dancers, carrying their funeral coffin and so on. And then we've seen DeAndre Yedlin speak on ESPN saying that as a club, you've got to strengthen. And Martin Dubravka was excited times. He's been quoted as saying, Eisha, are the other players excited, but also, wait a minute, I'm going to lose my position here?
Yeah, and I think they have a right to be concerned that their place in the squad will be in jeopardy. I think it's that sort of time where the spine of players who really have put their all into everything and bring a lot of quality, and there's a handful of them that we can name that really give 110% effort and commitment. They've been good servants to the club. They'll feel excited and apprehensive at the same time. And I think it's such an unpredictable sort of situation right now. They don't really know anything about strategy. They don't really know if it's going to happen, but they have a right to be concerned, because in the right environment, the right players can obviously thrive to do better, but the tactics, they'll be changed and they'll be adapted in a way to allow us to go out there and try and win every single game. And not every existing player fits into that right now. And obviously money plays a huge part. So I think what will be really interesting to see is how the existing players react and sort of perform based on the big names that do come in. And that's the most they can do, just give it their best. And whoever has earned their place going forward, good on them, because there are players that have been good servants to the club and they deserve their place in the squad to stay there. And although we want to evolve and grow and build a squad with, a lot of money, let's not forget that we can't simply dismantle what we have already. When we do have a good spine of players, we can just build on them and work around them with big names chucked in. They'll just have to be very level-headed to deal with that and deal with the competition involved in new signings.
Now, of course, we're talking like the takeover is happening, but of course we must stress it isn't done.
If we fall through, we're going to look ridiculous.
I know we are excited but cautious, as Kyle's touched upon earlier, but the transition of the team, Isha's right, it won't just happen overnight. You're not going to see 10, 11 new players. If we fast forward, let's say the takeover happens, Kyle, in 2 years' time, give me 5 players who are still on that Newcastle side.
Dubravka, Shea, Sean, Matty, and Maximin, and I'll give you a 6th, Almiron. But that's it. I'd say the rest are like, the rest would be struggling to keep ahead of the position. Maybe Isaac Hayden as well. Hayden's done really well, but other than that, I'd say the rest are fighting for the positions, like, for sure.
Yeah, you've got to keep them for the team. Lascelles obviously being captain as well. If you had some rattling, Isha's throwing her mobile around the room.
Sorry, my phone fell.
No, that's not lies. I've spotted you when you threw your iPhone off the walls and all sorts when you're upset. So
it's fine, right. I think.
But
that's okay, right?
Yeah, we'll crack on.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's fine.
Also, sorry, can I just add, we're not really sure how the strategy will involve the academy, and if we do have people that come to the club and want the best for the club and want us to really grow and nurture the young talent that we do have, that will play a part as well going forward. Because if we have the big names coming in and then we have the young academy players who need to be given a chance in terms of growth within the club, that also puts in jeopardy existing players. So that's another thing to think about.
It's probably a healthy thing, having that competition with youngsters who have cried out for years, and all of a sudden you've had Paul Dummett, Andy Carroll come back, and the 2 Longstaff. So yeah, hopefully, obviously that goes into different questions with the stadium and youth development, which the lads talk about later on in the shows as well. But I think Kyle's right. You've got to keep a big core, 6 or 7, especially your leaders. Even if your leaders aren't the best players, you've got to have the same dress.
Oh yeah, definitely Lascelles. The leadership qualities that he brings in, definitely. That's who I was referring to when I said people that get the players that have given 110% effort and commitment. People like Lascelles. That's exactly the type of player he is for us, isn't he?
I'm going to ask both of you this question because I know Kyle will probably feel a little bit more passionate on it. So mind your language, Mr. Thompson, when we come round to you. The boards, Eisha, do you feel having a fan on the board bridges that gap, but it also has a voice for the fans? Because we've never had it.
Yeah, I mean, if the new owner is listening right now, you need to choose me for the board because I'm the perfect person for the job. Okay, great. Now that's over with. It's quite interesting actually because the answer is yes. I do think that would be enormously valuable to have a fan on the board 100%. But hear me out. What about, okay, for example, so Les Ferdinand, we know, former player, you love him, Lee. He has love and affection for the club. He's the director of football at QPR, right? Yeah. So he already has that relationship with Jamie Rubin, who will be on the board at Newcastle. So how about someone like Les Ferdinand, who is knowledgeable on the club? He knows Newcastle through and through. He has so much experience. He would want the best for the club. The new owners will need people around them to help with that knowledge. And I think Les Ferdinand would be the perfect man for the job. And also Warren Barton, he was asked about this as well. And he said that Les Ferdinand would never work with someone that he doesn't trust. So if he already has that rapport with Jamie Rubin, then it makes sense someone like Les Ferdinand could really come on board. I think he'd be a good man for the job.
Yeah, Sir Les was speaking on our interview. No, sorry, Warren Barton was speaking about Sir Les on the Warren Barton interview, which you can see later on in the show, actually. A bit of a clip on that. Kyle, we struggle to have our say in the Newcastle area. And we always frustrating with the fans forum. Where's our voices? My cat decides to
photo bomb, steal the show.
It is literally always one of them. Come on, out the way. Come on.
If you're listening on Nova Radio, a cat has impeded Lee's screen.
How important is a fan on the board?
Well, it's been long overdue. We'll have something like that, Lee. Just a connection from the club to the fan base. It hasn't been there for such a long time now, and I think it would be priority for the new board to really put that in place, whether that be Les Ferdinand, as Eisha touched upon, or even someone like an Alan Shearer, or just someone who has that connection, someone that gets it, someone that understands. And I think it's, as I say, it's priority that they put that in place.
Yeah, like ambassador. Look at Liverpool; they're brilliant at it. Ambassador roles. Eisha, what's more important though? Is it the club being successful, or is it a club that communicates?
I think it's a really good question, and I think after years and years of owners having an owner that, I mean, I'm sure most fans will agree, don't have the best interests of the club. I think as fans, we deserve both. And I do think they go hand in hand. Like, for example, I don't know if any viewers or listeners have read Kevin Keegan's book, but honestly, it's a must read. His first page is about his managerial career at Newcastle under Mike Ashley. And these were like early days. And if I take anything from that book, it's that without communication and transparency, you can have all the money in the world, but you're not going to have a successful team. It just won't work. If Kevin Keegan was there, who is Newcastle through and through, so knowledgeable, one of the best for the club, the wealth of knowledge he had, and then Mike Ashley's money was there. If that still couldn't work and get a successful team and he was shunned out, then it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. So I think, to answer the question, I think you need communication in order to produce a successful club. And that's where we've been let down over the years, because that transparency has not been there. And now we can, like reading Kevin Keegan's book, for example, is just pure evidence of, wow, this is going on behind the scenes, and this is why we're not reaching the heights that we deserve to reach. We have the resources available, but we don't have the people behind that actually truly want the best for the club, and that's where we're stunted.
And you can get Kevin Keegan's book where, Kyle?
On Newcastle Fans TV's Amazon store.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo!
We expected to get it wrong.
I was just trying to see if you were listening, that was all. Yes, you can get lots of books on there. There's some fantastic reads on Amazon. Kyle, if I give you two options, you can't give me two. If I said to you, we win trophies, but the club doesn't speak to you. Okay, or we don't win any trophies, but they do speak to you. What would you pick?
It's a bit obviously. I'd rather, if they're not talking to winning trophies, I guess that's what they're there for, isn't it? That's what they're there to do. We've been starved of trophies. I mean, we've been starved of communication as well. But if they're not talking to us, but we're getting trips to Wembley and we're winning trophies left, right, and centre. I mean, as a Newcastle fan, I'd rather see my team lift a trophy than have a director speak to us. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be a trophy straight. It'd be trophies and success over being spoken to for sure. But they've got to back it up. If they don't back it up, then they'd need to open communication as to why they weren't. But yeah, I'd rather have the success straight up.
Yeah, and talking about that, if Eisha, that Mike Ashley does leave, hopefully he does very soon. Obviously, your dad, I don't know why he drilled it into you to support Newcastle, because your poor so-and-so has never won nothing, and you've never seen, you're a fan, you're a long-term suffering fan, like all of us are. But what would it feel like, if from your perspective, with your family? Obviously, there's a few years to support Newcastle. How would you celebrate it? How would you react? Because your dad, obviously, Kevin Keegan, the 90s, and drilled it into you about that. We've seen it with your tune tops and that. I mean, what would it mean for you? And it just change everything, wouldn't it?
I can't even imagine how it would feel, and I think I'm scared too, just because obviously we've been let down so many times with these takeover rumours. It haunts us every few months. It comes around, and to become a Newcastle fan in that exciting, special era, and to see over the years the ups and downs, mostly downs because of ownership, it would be really, really special. And I think more than us fans wanting to see Newcastle on the right end of the Premier League, it's way more than that. It's about restoring pride and restoring faith and that promised land that we reached in the 90s. It's about actually taking the next step, going forward and evolving into a new chapter that will take us there, because it's possible, because we have the right owners, we have the right team, we have the right personnel. And I just want to see us competitive again. I want us to, like when we signed Alan Shearer, it was a record-breaking fee, the excitement, attracting interest from all over the world, which we still have done over the years. But of course, there's only so far we could have gone as a club. And to change all of that around and to really give it our best in creating something special with resources and with new owners, it's a huge opportunity for the new owners. And I can see every reason under the sun why they would see it as such a good opportunity for them with the fan base we have. And yeah, I just want to see us competitive again. That's the first thing I want to see. I just want to see us competitive, because we've been so stunted in that over the years, and it's been disappointing, it's been hurtful, it's been sad for all of us to be on this journey. But to get back and get close to that again, to the promised land, it'd mean the world.
I think Eisha needs a hug. I think she needs
I do. But social distancing, it'll be a virtual hug.
Very good point. Picture this. You're 2-0 up at Old Trafford. Kyle, would it be...
Been there and done that, bought the T-shirt, mate.
Matty Longstaff would have scored one of them.
If you're 2-0 up at Old Trafford, would it be shoes off if you love the tune, Kyle?
I think so. It was the last time we were 2-0 up at Old Trafford, and look how that turned out. So, but just to add on to what Eisha was saying before, I think if this takeover was to happen, trying to describe that feeling, I don't think it's describable, to be honest, because we've waited so long for this. I mean, it's 13 years now, and I think it'd be more of a feeling that we'll get our club back, and it's like, it's not just competitive or promised lands or anything like that. It's just a feeling of hope again, something that Newcastle United and its fan base hasn't had. I mean, you know it yourself, Lee. We've seen it in the past year with the BCG group, fans turning on each other, hating each other, sheer frustration, 2 relegations, getting hammered off Sunderland several times and having to live through that, and just a sheer depression over the football club. And if this so happens to be true when everything comes out that Mike Ashley's gone, I think it'll be more just a relief. The priority for me is getting Mike Ashley out of the football club first. Anything after that, if these have got money of investment going into the football club, that's just merely a bonus, because Paul put it right last time he spoke. he'd rather have Fred West in charge of Newcastle United than Mike Ashley. And for what Mike Ashley's done to this club, where it's just been a hell for Newcastle, where we've had no investment in the training ground, we've had world-class managers be frustrated to a point where they've left. Yeah, I could go on about Mike Ashley for the best part of the 2 hours of this radio show, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to sum it up with we'll have hope again, and that's what you want as a fan, hope.
I think we all do. The reason why I was referenced that, because obviously at Old Trafford, Kyle started taking his shoes off and started singing 2-0 up. If you love the tune, the reason why I pointed that is because at that very moment you're in ecstasy and you're absolutely high, and then obviously Man United, that last minute winner, and you're right down. That's what it's like with a Newcastle fan. It's tough for all of us, especially the older ones like me and Eisha. I've probably got a couple of years wrong, Kyle. Put it that way. Not as much, mind. But that is the section for this part wrapped up. You can see more of Eisha over on Instagram. Eisha, what's the Instagram? You may as well plug it.
It's at Eisha_Megan_Acton.
To the links as well. You can see all of Eisha's stuff as well.
I can't remember mine.
Kyle, I don't even know what yours is.
Neither do I. I don't use it anyway, so it's all good.
Well, all the links for everyone are in the description. I'm going to hand back to myself to interact with you on the WhatsApp and live chat.
The Black and White Football Show, Sundays 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
Hello, everyone. Right, we'll go through section 1. Hallelujah, after the previous 2 streams. So we're getting somewhere tonight, people. Right, so you might have seen 2 things that have happened just actually in the last hour. Luke Edwards has said that there potentially may be a second bid for Newcastle. Look, I think if the deposit's already been paid, and surely it's non-disclosure. So I don't know where Luke's got his information from, but I personally cannot say that. But I wanted to bring up this. I'll read your WhatsApps out in a second. I wanted to bring up this because earlier on today, of course, we hammer Twitter and we love with Twitter stuff, but the sports minister from the Saudi Arabia, you can see he's verified for people who are watching the stream, people who are listening on Nova Radio. There's a picture on screen now with the Saudi Arabia sports minister who has now followed Newcastle United official Twitter account. So speculation, why would a random sports minister, a member of parliament, that's what they're called over there, who would follow Newcastle United quite randomly? I don't know. That just fuels fire to the speculation on that as well. What we'll do is we'll quickly read out some of your WhatsApps because a lot were coming through on that clip as well. I'm just going to go back through to earlier on. And this one was no name. He just says, "Not Rafa, please. Pochettino for me." We'll be talking about managers in our 3rd section, so if you want to get your WhatsApp in about that. A message from Starty says, "All right then, never had a drinking problem, but I haven't had a drink for 2.5 years. Takeover might be worth breaking it for. Or do I wait for the Premier League title?" Very good. I like that one. What do you want to happen, or if the takeover happens, what do you want from them to do first? I think most Newcastle fans will probably say the training ground or the stadium, or even both, first. And then if you can get a couple of better named players, big profile ones. Of course, we're talking like it is happening. We've got to come down a level sometimes. I think, well, wait a minute, this might not actually happen yet. So we are hopeful and we are optimistic that it does happen. I'm a lot more hopeful of it. Whereas a couple of weeks back I was like 20 against 80. Now I'm probably 70-30 in favour that it's happening. Another one that's come through, no name, says, "Hey, hope you're all well and safe. Any news on the takeover?" I see Sky Sports there are trying to stop the takeover. Sky Sports are trying to stop the takeover, something stupid on the news. I think you mean BN Sports, which we'll talk about that in the 2nd section of that. So you do want to stick around for that because it's not pleasant, shall we say. And another one, again, no name. Please leave your name when you're leaving us WhatsApps. Will Joe Linton fit into next season's starting 11 if we sign a new striker? Or could you see him playing another position? Well, of course, we know in the Bundesliga he played most of his games out wide. I don't think Joe Linton will be sold, even if a takeover does happen. The simple fact is we're not going to get that kind of money back from him. He's got to prove some of it back. So if we sold Joe Linton, I think he'll only get about 10 million from him. I think the club will hang on, even if we had new owners. I think we'll wait until next season, see how he gets on, and then claw, at least try and get some money in the back if he's not hitting 20 goals a season, because a striker who's cost 40 million really should be, in all honesty. And this is Ben from Exeter. He says, if the sale goes through, what players would you like to see us sign? Messi, Ronaldo. No, I'm joking. I think realistically, if you do have cash, I've said earlier on in that clip there, Timo Werner for me is a realistic one. I would love to get him. He's absolutely banging the goals in Leipzig, and if we are taking over, it will cost a lot in wages. But there is rumour that there a transfer release clause in there for him as well. Let's have a look at what he's saying in the live chat as well. He says, Daily Philippines, is that right? Daily Philippines says, play him on the right position. I presume he means Joe Litton there. Savage says, there may be news of a second bid for Newcastle breaking later. A deal verbally agreed and so on, which makes very little sense as contract signs for the Saudis. So yeah, I would agree on that, Savage. Even if Luke Edwards is right in saying there's a second bid for the takeover, the deposit's already paid. The Saudis are in full control. So I wouldn't worry. People who are worried, I wouldn't worry about that too much as well. Cavani, people are saying David Ginola, director of football, says Adam Sherlock. Adam's obviously a member now of Facebook group, so nice to see you on here, Adam, as well. And Lawrence says, give the number 9 shirt a new striker. Yeah. Right, what we'll do is, because the radio show needs an ad break, so there's a question coming up. We'll be back with you in a couple of minutes.
When I walk into the kitchen, you saw the look on my face. You saw the look on my heart to get out of this place. I seen something I've never seen before. When you put on the pineapple, we couldn't be friends anymore. Pineapple thousand, go on pizza. It's a fruit and you know that. Pineapple doesn't go on pizza. They just don't belong.
So the question is, for people who are listening on Nova Radio 102.5, which club did Newcastle sign Regan Thompson from in January just gone? Regan Thompson. which club did we get him from? And welcome back. So we're just going to quickly rattle through a couple more of your WhatsApp NUFC. Yeah, lovely. William from Belfast says, just think that the takeover's all talk. You would think Newcastle would come out and tell the fans something. Any chance of Eisha's number? That'll be down to Eisha if she wants to give you her number. The next one, no name on it. He says, I think we can raise our income with player sales and get better player sales and still meet financial fair play regulations. With FFP, I think that might be let off the hook this year because of the coronavirus situation. So hopefully that is the case, because we can then go a little bit daft if we do have a takeover. Fingers crossed. Hi Lee, what's happening with the stream? Yeah, that was earlier on. Sorry about that. OBS was playing up. Darren from Huntington says, no question, it's got to be Pochettino. Premier League experience and quality. Rafa is in the past, let's move forward. Great show, please stop buying your broadband from Sports Direct. It's not the broadband that went down, it's the software. Broadband's running lovely. Jay in Atlanta, all the way from US of A. Financial fair play limit and £80-90 million publicity known could help prevent overpaying. Not remotely the situation Man City were in, as they paid any number asked. Interesting. John, thanks for your message. John B says, not sure that the takeover will go ahead, or who you would want as manager and the first player coming in. For me, Rafa and Rondon. Would you go back to Rondon? Let us know in the live chat. I'll read a couple more before we move on to the next section, which is all about BN Sports and amnesty and stuff. So yeah, please let us know in the comments about that. Richard Keys, nicely timed. Richard Keys has gone in on a club this time. Pochettino all day for me. Please leave your name when you do leave us a voice note. And this one is from Ireland. Peter, Jody, living in Ireland. I think it would be great having a fan on the board, but it'd be hard to get that done. Would have to be a football professional who has played the sports and the tune. Let's fingers crossed this takeover goes through. Yeah, Les Ferdinand's been muted up for director of football, hasn't he? He's doing a good job at QPR under the tight financial string that they're under now. Even move Steve Bruce upstairs, he says, and get Pochettino in. I cannot say Bruce moving upstairs though. I think he'll go. I think he'll get paid off. Lawrence, hiya mate. Lawrence has obviously been on the fan cams in the past as well. He says, my first choice would be Rafa, but not sure I would leave China after less than a year. Pochettino would be second, although I don't think there's been much investment at Dalian Yafang recently. And the last one, again, keep your WhatsApp coming through. I've still got another 8 to rattle through, but we'll read it after the next section. I think any new takeover news from other I can't pronounce this word, consortiums, go on Lee, you can say this, is just free publicity for them. Fingers crossed this goes through. Right then, let's see if he's responded back to that. Rondon. Rondon was never our player. He did well, but we can do better, and that's from Jason. And it's a shame, Rondon. Don't tell Kyle that, because Kyle will get a bit upset if you say that, man. Kyle's got a thing. He's got a massive, it must be the size of about a green screen poster of Rondon with his shirt off. He absolutely loves him. Right, we're going to move over to... this isn't going to be pleasant. It's all about BN Sports and stuff like that, which in the opposition who don't want the takeover to go through. Well, let us know, of course, what you think on that as well. But yeah, let's move forward, shall we, into the next section.
The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
Thanks very much, Lee. Yes, this is part 2. Made a couple of substitutions, haven't we? Can you work them out? Yeah, Eisha and Kyle were in part 1. Been substituted by me, Sam and Rob. Man, you've got the better deal here, like you've definitely got the better deal. Yes, so it obviously has been talked about a lot, is about all the negativity from other people apart from Newcastle fans in regards to this potential takeover. Sam, I'm going to start with the letters, as I'm going to call them, from Amnesty International and also from BN Sports. First, from Amnesty International, what are their main concerns?
Obviously, the Saudi Arabian human rights record, the size now, but I mean, they're obviously accusing them of sports washing. Obviously, we've seen Anthony Joshua fight over there, and I think WWE have a couple of events a year there or something. I'm not sure, but they're basically saying they're using sport to kind of detract from that and usher away people's attention from their pretty questionable human rights record, which, you know, it is something to bear in mind. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm in favour of the takeover and #cans. I'm on board with all of that, but it is something that does need to be looked at, I suppose. But it's a strange one. I don't know. There's no right answer to it, but well, there's a right answer to the beIN Sports one, which I'll let you talk about now.
Yeah, obviously they might put a graphic on the letter itself. I'll let you read it in its entirety because obviously it is quite a big letter. But Rob, Sam's touched about a couple of big points. Is the human rights, you know, the alleged killings of journalists, and it doesn't put them in a good light, does it?
It's the human rights record is definitely, it needs addressing. Forget looking at it; it needs addressing. You know, yesterday. But I think as far as business is concerned, having a poor human rights record shouldn't stop them from going about their normal everyday business acquisitions, if you like. So I've got nothing against this takeover going through.
I think obviously that's probably a bias view because we're all Newcastle fans. Yeah. We all want us to go through, and you know, some from an outsider maybe looking in, you know, you'd be thinking, well, they've got this horrible human rights record. They shouldn't really be allowed to own a football club and, you know, more or less take over because of the wealth they've got. Do you sympathise with any of those fans if you were to put your, say, tin hat on that you weren't a Newcastle fan, for example?
It's one of them in a way that, yes, I can sympathise, and because obviously it's well publicised, they've done some pretty horrendous things, but football and politics should always remain separate and kept well apart. I think if you look at the vast majority of billionaires around the world, everyone has their hands dirty, you know. So, yeah, exactly. I mean, Mike Ashley has some questionable human rights records at his warehouses, but that's by the by, I suppose. It's a right political minefield, the Middle East. So it's not one that football should really get in the middle of.
You know, when push comes to shove and people have tried to get the government involved, and the government have bit back a little bit and said, we're not going to do anything. We don't believe that we should be involved in something like this, in the sense that they don't want to, like, scupper the chances for Newcastle. They don't think it's their place almost. You've seen His Highness go to 10 Downing Street and shake hands with Theresa May, who was the Prime Minister at the time of his visit. He's also met Her Majesty the Queen. So, and the current Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has also a picture together with them that's been put on Twitter today. So is Sam right? Should politics and the government just leave them alone? They've got a lot more massive things to worry about, like COVID-19, for example.
Politics should be kept a long way away from the footballing situation. Football now has sort of moved into business. It's sort of moved from more or less entertainment industry to financial to business, the business industry. It's not really touched the political industry, not up until, you know, very recent days. When you look at the likes of PSG, they're owned by oil-rich states from the Middle East, and that's only been recent. And no one's really batted an eyelid about why PSG should or should not be owned by a state, essentially. So it's something that shouldn't really come into politics. Should not come into contact with this. Like we said earlier, they've got a poor human rights record, but there are other things in life, like business.
In regards to beIN Sports, this has all really started from a former Sky Sports presenter who got sacked for being sexist numerous times with Charlotte Jackson, with I think her name was Claire Tomlinson.
Yeah.
You've also got the female lineswoman who got the decision right between Wolves and Liverpool in early 2011, January, February 2011. And then has I don't know what the word is, but has the balls, shall we say, to question morality after allegedly having an affair with her daughter's friend for 18 months when his wife she had cancer. So I'm not even going to say his name, Sam, because I feel like this person, everyone knows who it is, should not be questioning the morals of a takeover when you look at the person himself and you go, I think you should take yourself out of this one. Is it more to do with the fact of the company he works for? Because there's a bigger story behind that.
There's a much bigger story behind that, and that stems all the way down between Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and the bitter old dinosaur who we're referring to is just not worth the time of day. It's so annoying that, I mean, everyone's guilty of it, because at one time of day they were the main two people on Sky and they were well respected. Not anymore. He even came out and said, I wish it wasn't Newcastle that we're about to become the richest club in the world. It all stems down from beIN Sports, who tried to sue Saudi Arabia because they had a problem with how they were obtaining their football rights. The case was thrown out in France, so beIN Sports were unsuccessful. And it just stems between this whole frosty relationship that Qatar and Saudi Arabia always had, and that us as fans, everyone, football in general, just needs to steer clear of, because it's pretty dangerous.
Yeah, Rob, this man works for beIN Sports. This man argues that they pay a certain amount for the rights to show them in the country that they're broadcasting from, which is roughly about £500 million, I think, is a rough estimate of how much this company is paying. And obviously, Sam's right; they did take the Saudi Arabian streaming service to court. They didn't win. Why do you think he's trying to get involved in something like this? Is it just because of everything that's going on, he's trying to make himself a little bit more relevant? Or do you think he genuinely feels that Newcastle shouldn't be taken over by these guys? Or do you think there's more of a bigger impact on everything?
If you've looked at the clip, if you haven't looked at the clip, go and check it out on our Facebook page. The first thing he says is that I wish it wasn't Newcastle that were being taken over. So his problem with the situation is the fact that it's Newcastle that are getting taken over. If it was Manchester United, for example, none of this would kick off because of him. If it happened at Man United, for example, it would be a huge injection of cash. Edward, Woodward, could, probably should, would leave the club, which is what a lot of fans are wanting at the moment. And then they've still got a huge fan base around the world. That would surely reignite. No one would bat an eyelid if this was happening to Manchester United right now. And it's and of course Richard Keys, he's got a huge. Oh, sorry, I said his name. Sorry. But yeah, I've got history with just disliking Newcastle, to put it mildly, just for the sake of disliking Newcastle United. So this is very conveniently timed to say that, well, it's like two childish people trying to escalate each other ridiculously. And it's, like Sam said, he's just not worth the time of day for us or anyone.
I agree, Rob. Get your WhatsApp, text in to Lee as well. The number will be on the screen if you're watching this on any of our streaming services like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Give us a follow or subscribe as well while you're at it. If you're listening on Nova Radio Northeast 102.5, because Manchester City, we all know about, they've used their money very, very wisely, and they've won trophies. They've built themselves a new stadium infrastructure. In terms of the academy, it's one of the best, if not the best. But the club that I'm really going to talk about more is Sheffield United, and it's more relevant because, again, they're Saudi-based already. So surely it's not a problem for Newcastle to be taken over by a Saudi mega-rich company or mega-rich family, because there's already one in the Premier League already. Why is there an argument that this shouldn't be happening?
The difference between this and Sheffield United is that all the wealth of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Public Investment Fund, is going to be behind Newcastle United, whereas Sheffield United is just one billionaire who happens to be from Saudi Arabia. The thing is, there's kind of things you can take from Sheffield United and Manchester City in a way, and PSG to an extent as well. Lessons need to be learned from Man City and PSG, because as it stands, Man City are going to be banned from Europe for the next 2 seasons. So that needs to be looked at, and we can't fall into the same trap if that is the plan, if that is what these new owners want to set out and achieve, which we don't know yet.
Look, it's going to be difficult because every potential new owner, Rob, is going to have some baggage with them. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be Newcastle, Newport, Aston Villa, Hartlepool. You could be anybody. Someone's going to have a story about them. You're going to ask them about it. Do you feel that maybe with the likes of Sheffield United, the question was asked, and Sheffield United's new potential owners, or the new owners now, didn't really have much to answer for? Do you feel that because it's so much more money and so much more importance of the family behind it is why there's more questions being asked?
People kind of feel threatened about what we might become, and I do stress the word might because it hasn't happened yet, and it might not happen.
Of course.
And so big clubs, the likes of Man City, the likes of Man United, Chelsea and all the rest of it, we'll probably feel threatened that we're adding to the competition, or that we might add to the competition. So that certainly adds weight to it. But when you look at, there's been no such bad publicity under the Sheffield United move from what they did, and everyone loves them now. I mean, top half of the Premier League in their first season back after 13 years, a 13-year break. Everyone loves them now just because they're sort of upsetting the odds. So they're letting their football do the talking, and you never know, we might attract some new fans along the way. Who knows?
Who knows exactly, Rob? Sheffield United have not really spent a lorry load of money in the Premier League to really, target a top 4, top 6 status in the Premier League, but they've done very well under Chris Wilder, it has to be said. Just going back on Manchester City, Sam, Sheikh Mansour and His Royal Highness that's meant to be taken over at Newcastle, again, I'll stress the word might, like Rob did. There is a slight family connection, and I don't know if it can be 2 members of the same family can potentially own football clubs in the same division or in the same country. Now, this was kind of quashed more or less straight away that there's not really a massive connection, or if there is, it's being kept very hush-hush. But again, it doesn't seem to scupper the potential takeover, does it?
No, I think we're at a point now where I'll be amazed if it doesn't go through now. I think we've reached that point. By the time this goes out, hopefully it has gone through and we're all knee-deep in cans. But we're told that we've got a couple of weeks left to wait. I don't think the connection is... Well, it's definitely been made hush-hush because I don't think many people have heard of it. I think once the beIN Sport thing's not going to be an issue. The Amnesty International isn't going to be an issue. I think they even wrote PIB instead of PIF on their letter, which don't look great. And the Premier League wrote back and more or less said, butt out. I think unless something pretty spectacular happened, I think we're going to become the richest football club in the world. So, yeah. But that
mental,
doesn't that,
absolutely
that
mental.
doesn't guarantee success, and that doesn't guarantee anything. That's just the fact of the matter.
Just a quick one, just to add on, Sam. Do you think the Premier League aren't bothered about all of this? Because at the end of the day, money is money, and money will talk, won't it?
Yeah, I don't think they're really in a position to kind of stop it. Their checklist is fairly stringent, but it's also fairly restricted in a sense that nothing, what we know of Saudi Arabia, despite everything with human rights, blah, 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 it doesn't really, it's not going to stop a potential takeover. The only thing that would be the government, which has also been quashed, that they're going to step in, which obviously they're not. So as it stands, I think it's just a waiting game, as I think we're in the clear.
Let's finally touch on the point of journalists, because I think it'd be interesting, because obviously this is something that you really want to do, is become a journalist, want to get more involved in journalistic.
I am a journalist.
Well, there you go. Perfect man to ask. My question is, you might have seen the articles in regards to Miguel Delaney and Ollie Holt, who has an article for a big newspaper company. There are other people out there, but they're the main two that have wrote extensive articles about the departure of Mike Ashley, which is like the good side of it in terms of what Oliver Holt was doing, but also the potential criticism that the new owners might get, and in particular the Saudis, of course. Is it a case from a journalistic point of view that because there's nothing much to write about, they need to write about something so they'll get clicks? Or do you think they genuinely believe that what this could potentially happen could be a massive threat to English football in the future?
The way that the journalism industry is going now, of course, companies are relying on clicks because fewer and fewer actual newspapers are being printed now. So it's all down to online. Look at The Independent, for example. They moved online 3 years ago in 2017. Their income relies on the amount of clicks. So that is first and foremost for like the primary concern for a company like The Independent, for example. But then in terms of where do we go with English football with this certainly adds fuel to the fire, if you like, of the argument that there's too much money in football and the idea that money has ruined football.
You seem like a tally of what it could look like if Newcastle were taken over, and that every single club, if they added all their worth or their net worth, it wouldn't come close to what Newcastle would have as a whole. Do you think that other clubs are just gone, we can't let this happen because Newcastle could take over? I know this is probably quite, I don't know, maybe very, very optimistic. Yeah, of course. What do you make of it?
The right man comes along at the right time and go for it. I think if this was happening to a different team, then I'd say, that's just luck. Yes, it could have been us, and I'd be jealous. But at the same time, is there anything for people to legitimately say, no, you cannot, you must not do this for such and such and such? No, I can't see any sort of reason as to why you can't. I mean, we talked about the human rights record. You can't possibly let them not do what they want based solely upon their human rights record. You just got to let them do what they do, and then, like I say, address the human rights record. But that's what we talked about earlier.
Do you think that other Premier League clubs that were sent this letter about obviously the seriousness of the Saudis and how they're meant to be exceptionally bad for what could be happening to Newcastle, do you think all these Premier League clubs now are sitting and going, if this happens, it's a game changer, this could be, something that we definitely can't compete with?
Yeah, but possibly. But it's just it's an evolution from when Man United were bought out back in the day, from when Chelsea were bought by Abramovich, from when Man City were bought by Sheikh Mansour. This is just the next step in the evolution of owning a football team, I guess. And just to briefly go back on the point about Ollie Holt. I don't get that at all. He was at the Andy Ruiz rematch in December in Saudi, tweeting how great it was. So now all of a sudden he's got a problem. That kind of just made me chuckle. Rob made a point, it's just for clicks. I'm guessing that is the case. But as far as the other clubs go, they probably are worried, but probably less so than when City and Chelsea came onto the scene because of financial fair play, which wasn't around then. But so it's going to have to be a kind of gradual build.
For sure. What did you make of Miguel Delaney's article, Sam?
Would he have been right in the same had they bought Manchester United for $4 billion? I'm not so sure.
The problem is, though, Rob, like Sam mentioned, it's Newcastle. It isn't Manchester United, it isn't Liverpool, it isn't Arsenal, who are much bigger clubs than Newcastle as we speak, and have that history of winning trophies, etc. We can talk about everything else, but is it the fact that it's just Newcastle? They're a club in their own little bubble, and it's not Manchester United. If it was Man United, they'd probably be saying, this is fantastic for Manchester United. They've got something that backs them. This, that, and the other. In the fact that they can compete for Premier Leagues again, they can dominate English football once again.
What I was saying earlier, Manchester United have still got a huge fan base around the world from when Sir Alex Ferguson was there, and that's something that would definitely reignite. Of course, there'll be a lot of people that will have converted to Manchester City or Liverpool now, most likely, but Manchester United, who are still a top six side at the very least, despite how much they've fallen since Ferguson left in 2013. They're still up there, and so if this was Manchester United, everyone would be all for it and mentioning along the way how great Anthony Joshua is for having a fight down in Saudi Arabia as well. Like, there's a little bit of a link there. All good. Yeah, it's just the fact that it's little old Newcastle that might just get a little bit of power to try and upset the apple cart in the future, perhaps.
A last question, please, both on this potential takeover. Where you're at percentage-wise now, Sam? You've seen all the reports, you've seen all the articles, you've seen every last little bit of information on Twitter in particular. Percentage-wise, where are you at the minute? Because last time I spoke to you, it was 50-50.
Yeah.
Where are you now?
Well, if you remember when it was me, you and Lee, you were all 20-30%, and you said I was going high with 50-50. Now I'm 95.
Rob, where are you at?
I don't want to be kind of too all in, but there's cans in the fridge ready to go.
From what I gather, this is all out of Mike Ashley's hands now. He's done everything that he needs to do. So if this falls through, it won't be the fault of Mike Ashley. That's how I've understood it. So we've overcome the biggest possible hurdle that there was in this takeover bid. It's got to be high. I think I might end up hugely regretting saying this, of course, on in the public domain. It's got to be at least 90%. I was thinking 95 when Sam said that himself. So it's 95 for me.
Now or never. It has to be. If this doesn't happen this time, God knows what's going to happen in the future. It is now or never.
Sam says 95%. Rob says 95% done. That's what they think. What do you think? What do I think? Well, you know me, Rob, it's not like me to sit on the fence. Looking at the last 24, 36 hours, there has been a bit of negativity in certain aspects of this deal, which we've spoken about, and this is what this part is about. I have to agree. It looks like we're probably one little step away from this all being completed, and that is obviously the Premier League giving it the green light. And from looking at the rules, it seems like it shouldn't really be an issue. I think the big turning point for me, gents, was the deposit being paid, and the fact that Ashley's got that money now. And normally, if you've got a deposit on something and you've got the money, generally, 9 times out of 10 it does happen. So I'll be about the same as you, gents. 90-95%. I think I'm almost all in on the table, on the poker table, but not just yet. But yeah, it's a fantastic discussion to talk about. Get your comments in on WhatsApp. If you're on any of our socials, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, get your comments in while you're watching us. Give us your percentages and what do you think about that old Sky Sports guy about who now works with beIN Sports. How wrong do you think he is, and does he have the right to question morality when what you can tell what he's been up to and all the scandals that he's been back up to? I'll pass you back over to Lee now, and he'll get all your comments in, and stay around for part 3 of the Black and White Show.
The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
And we are back. So, negativity there from beIN Sports and Amnesty and so on, and a second bid all of a sudden that's come in tonight and all of that. Before we read out some of your WhatsApps as well, I just want to bring this up as well, because the lads touched upon it briefly, so thank you very much, Jonny, Rob and Sam, but the lads touched upon this, and for you that didn't know this, I'm sure some of you do, but if you look at the bottom sentence, that last June, beIN Sport lost a second case to the Arab Satellite Communications Organisation, which is Arabsat, in a French court after the media's group claims that the satellite allowed broadcasting basically of privacy. They breached laws from the Premier League and their own laws. So it's allegedly, and I must stress allegedly, because they were saying that the Saudis were streaming the Premier League using the beIN Sports Qatari's equipment / streaming service, and that went to the French courts, and the Saudis won it. So there you go. And the one, as you can see in higher up as well, you can read that whilst I'm chatting to you. They won a second case as well. So it goes to they've been proven in court not guilty. So proven in court not guilty on that. So yeah. Again, let us know what you think of that, Richard Keys. I'm sure you're going as well. We've got a quick clip from Mick Loves. It's about a minute and a half long, talking about the human rights side of things and should we be worried. No, we don't. It's not playing. Okay, fantastic. So we did have a clip there about Mick Loves, and it was more about, he was talking about that we should be worried, but we shouldn't be bringing politics into football. Whereas Newcastle is Newcastle United, whereas over in Saudi Arabia, it might be a lot more in the Middle East, it might be more headline news. But if Newcastle United was based in the Middle East, Mick was saying, we would be a lot more talking about it, a lot more worried about it. But look, as I say earlier on, is that, and I'm sure everybody the same, you've seen the stories not quite as bad, but Mike Ashley with people giving birth in his factories, allegedly, and people are not allowed to go on unplanned breaks and stuff like this and can't have paid leave, and it goes on and on and on, doesn't it? Let's read out some of your WhatsApps again. Get rid of Joe Linton. £40 million for what? He's a disgrace. Harsh, but no name left there. We've got 3 from Gary here. He says, forget the money. It's all about getting a fresh, good structure back into the club with good communication with the fans all the time. And then inject passion back into the place. It's been soulless for too long, says Gary as well. Second bid has already been before this one, and Gary Finley from Belfast, he says, this might sound a bit crazy, but if we do go big time, I really think we should go for Ronaldo and build around him in saint-maximin. Just take the bull by horns and see what happens. Gary, I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest with you. We can always try and be ambitious, but I can't say it's going for Ronaldo. He's getting on, and yeah, just don't think that'll happen personally for me. But I think a big name statement will be brilliant. Mal from Stella says, surely it's up to beIN Sports to sort out their own concerns about privacy, like Sky do, whatever, etc., etc. Says Mal, would you ever give Steve Bruce a chance if it was your decision? I think it's a question that comes around quite a lot with Bruce. I think with Bruce, you'll be given a short time to try and do something. Still got the FA Cup. There's this very slight outside chance, depending on what happens with Manchester City, whether Newcastle can come 8th, because 8th would normally get you into Europa League if Man City don't win their case against China. And this is Pete Geordie from Ireland, makes a great point about China's human rights. You see all the managers and players go out there, don't you? He says, look at China's human rights and Qatar World Cup stadiums were built with slave labour, I think he's trying to say. Why is it such a big deal that because it's the tune? It's just because nobody wants Newcastle to get this massive investment and potentially being the biggest club in the Premier League. I don't just think we'll be the biggest, I think we will be the biggest around as well. Hiya, this is from Ryan. If we could sign Grealish, Edouard from Celtic, Dembele from Lyon, and a decent right back, where do you think we could finish next season? Europe. If we get those 4 players, in particular Grealish, I think possibly Europe. I think that's maybe, but if there isn't a takeover, I think you've got to look at possibly Bruce has got to keep us top 10. I think that's probably the aim if there's no takeover. And he has the last one. There's a few more to read, but I'm just going to quickly run through this one. It says, hi everyone, hope you're all as excited and nervous as I am. The Saudi aspect of the takeover is something that you have to acknowledge. However, if they want to invest in the Northeast and bring financial support to us, I only think it's a good thing. Yes, they have a questionable past, but however, it's looking to the future as well. I'll read some of them more out in a second. Let's have a look at what he's saying in the live chat as well. My cat decided to join me, which I didn't notice. You would have noticed that before me. Another few weeks, 2 weeks, says John. Imagine those 3 to start. And Poch, says Daniel, we're going to talk about managers on the next section, so get interacting on that. Need to get Bale, Cavani and Martins. How long do you reckon before the checks are done, says Jackie? I think realistically 2 weeks. I think if we haven't heard nothing in 2 weeks' time, I think we'll start to panic a little bit, because it can take up to a month, 2 to 4 weeks, and it's already been a couple. Richard Keys is a such and such. I can't repeat that because we are on the radio. From Daniel Kane, he said it was someone else to get the takeover done. And the last one, Brian, says Ashley has paid a massive tax bill, so that tells me that the deal is done. Right, okay, so we're going to have a quick break, and then what we're going to do is talk a little bit about managers. See if you can answer this question.
Hey you, I saw you from the distance. Hey you, can we talk? Hey you, I think you're my subsistence. Hey you, or am I wrong? And now I lose my own sight. My love is out of my mind. And you, I'm not more than a
So, question. Who got the assist in Jonas Gutierrez's famous goal against West Ham? We won 2-0 on the day. Final day of the season. Took your shirt off. Swinging it around to the place. Does the ear celebration. Looking up towards Mike Ashley because obviously we've all seen what went on there. Well, a lot of you have got that in the live chat, so well done, Lawrence Taylor, as well.
The Black and White Football Show, Sundays 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio North East.
Right, so
Thanks
we're
very
going
much,
to talk
Lee.
about...
Yes, this is part.
There we go, I'll fix that. So we're going to be talking about managers in the next section with it as well. Let's have a look at what you're saying in the live chat as well, and then we'll get the answer. Right, hi everyone, I hope you're excited as nervous as I am. I've already read that out and out. Luke Edwards' tweet from tonight, that's been brought up as well, and this is a lad spoke from Cyprus. That's the right name. Yeah, Luke Edwards has come out tonight and said there's a news of a potential second news story, breaking later concerning maybe a possibility of a second bid for Newcastle. I don't know. I find it puzzled that the Saudis have already put the deposit down. So if there is another interested party, maybe they're a bit worried that they're going to lose Newcastle. But yeah, he asks, what does it feel like everyone against the money coming in in the Northeast? I don't think there's many people against that spoke with the money coming into the Northeast. I think what will happen is you'll probably see a lot of the like Manchester City done, where they build probably communication centres, learning centres, community buildings. It'll improve the area. It'll bring a lot more money into the club because people will want to buy the stadium a lot more. Match programmes will go up, more pints will go up as well. So I think it's a good thing, for the North East as well. He says, for me, the football, and these are my thoughts only, the feeling at the moment for a good team, exciting the fans, is amazing. However, this plays second fiddle to the potential regeneration of the North East, getting investment to the region, which will have a growth on the area and affect the club. And it's been the heart of us that we're all doing well. It's fundamentally amazing that we can all grow together. I think the Saudis will come in. They'll have to play some part in the community. They'll have to, and I think it's the right thing that they'll do as well. Imagine, here's another one. It's kind of simple. It's now country against country. It is UAE versus Saudi Arabia. Interesting. BN Sports is just jealous. And he also says, imagine how many clubs have human rights problems just in the Premier League. Kieran says, do you think we'll keep saint-maximin? For the time being, yeah, I think we'll probably keep him next season, but if he has even a better season and stays injury-free, depending where Newcastle are, because if we have been taken over, there's not really much need for him to move, because we'll be trying to be ambitious. But if we don't get that takeover, yeah, I could see Alan Saint-Maximin leaving us in a couple of years or so. Pochettino's definitely a manager I look at, and this is from Gary again. He understands the Premier League is a good age, passionate about the game, and in his own words, doesn't have to be a big hitter for his next club. Could be a club ready to go to that next level, like we are going to be. Done a great job at Spurs with very little money being spent. And we'll read this last one out before we talk about managers. What actual evidence is there that there is any of this takeover? Not going by Sky Sports, as we know, have been wrong already. Interesting that. Okay, right, and so the third section is all about managers. Who do you want to come in? Fire some names in that live chat. If there is a takeover, and it does happen, do you want to see Bruce is kept on? Do you want to see Pochettino, Allegri? Do you want to see Rafa back? Do you want to see Eddie Howe given that chance? Or even Sean Dyche? Get them live chat going before we move on to the next section talking about the managers. Rafa, says John B. Benitez, says Andrew. Poch or Rafa, says James. Just wish it was all over and done and dusted, says John Bruce. The answer for who set up Jonas Gutierrez, it was Jack Holbach, so well done for everybody. And Will says Bruce all day for me. Pep Guardiola says Jackie, wow. That'll be a big shout because he's only got a year left on his deal at Manchester City, hasn't he? So, the takeover happens, right? Let's just say it's done. Who are we going to bring in? So this one is Sam. Is Sam in this one? No, Owen's in this one. Keep me right. There's so many people on today's radio show, which is brilliant. Owen presents this one with Jonny and I think it's Kyle. You'll see in a minute. I've lost track who's who.
The Black and White Football Show, Sundays 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
Thank you very much, Lee. I have Jonny and Kyle with us here to go through the list of potential managers that could potentially take over at Newcastle once this takeover is done. Now, we are being very hopeful here. I have the list of managers of names that have been mentioned in front of me. So we have former Spurs manager Mauricio Pochettino, former Newcastle manager and Liverpool manager Rafa Benitez, former Juventus manager I can't pronounce his first name, Allegri. Massimino, that's the one. Sean Dyche, Eddie Howe, and Steven Gerrard. Right, there's a bit of a mixed list there. Just off a name basis in general, just going off what you know of those managers so far, who would you most like to see as the next Newcastle manager?
You didn't mention Steve Bruce.
He's not going to be here after the end of the season. That's my opinion on it.
If we don't get taken over, he will be, though.
Oh, yeah, he will be here, yeah.
So in a hypothetical world, you're probably looking at, I think the safe option for me would be Benitez, because obviously he came in, he gave at least a hope to the fans when it wasn't really there. We're in the Championship, we're kind of in one of those spots where we could have been there a while if he didn't stick around. He got back to the Premier League in a hard division, that's the Championship, and there was times where we looked shabby in that division, but we managed to pull through and go up, and then he consolidated in the Premier League for 2 seasons, and that's massive given the underspending that he had. And obviously he left because of the owner, and with everything falling flat on its face with the BCG group and Amanda Staveley the first time, I think Rafa's just kind of lost hope that the takeover was going to happen, and he couldn't work with Mike Ashley anymore, so he took off. And I know Amanda Staveley would like Rafa Benitez in from the first time, as the husband says a couple of years ago that Rafa, even if they win the Championship, they'd like to keep him on. So there's a massive value of importance to them having Rafa in, or they at least think highly of him. So even the journalists at Sky have said it's inevitable that they at least go for him. So I think a safe option and the most likely option would probably be Rafa Benitez, in my opinion.
And Jonny, what do you have to say on this?
Similar to Kyle, I think Benitez will be. I think he's still favoured at the minute. I know obviously the odds have tumbled to Pochettino, which I'm sure we'll mention in a minute. But Benitez is a safe option, and the good thing is, like Kyle says, they have a relationship already with Amanda Staveley, and I think that goes a long way. There's not a lot of loyalty in football, but I think this is one where you look at and go, well, I've been after you for a long time. I can understand why you didn't want to stay on last time, because there was other parties interested. From what I've just found out in the last couple of hours, an American group are interested in taking over their club as well last summer. So look, there was a lot of speculation, and he kind of probably went at the right time because there was so much uncertainty at the football club 12 months ago, or just under a year ago. But Benitez's track record speaks for itself. We said this when he came the first time, when he came in from just leaving Real Madrid, and we know what he's won. He's won Champions League, he's won La Liga, he's won the UEFA Cup and the Europa League. I know it's the same competition, but at different times. He's won the FA Cup. Need that go on. So he's won a lot of trophies, but he's ambitious, and that's what Newcastle haven't been in the last God knows how many years. So if these owners are coming over to take over and to be ambitious, then it's a perfect partnership. But the question's got to be, can Rafa Benitez take us to a stage in our football club that we've never seen before? Because that's what they're after.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you look at it in the state that Newcastle are in now and the players that we've got now, Rafa will be very, very familiar with the squad that we've got at the moment. And I think he's probably the best bet to just bring him in. He knows the players. He knows his way around the city. He knows the ins and outs of the club. So he can be the man to take us on and push us and just rebuild us, I think, is probably the best way of putting it. And if he gets us into the Champions League, Europa League even, he's done his job. And if that's as far as he can take us, then that's it. And you just part on good terms. A question that I wanted to ask you guys is, who do you think is the worst manager from that list? Who would you definitely 100% not take off that list?
Gerrard.
Oh, I
Steven Gerrard.
disagree.
Why is that, Kyle? Why would you say?
I just think as a manager, he hasn't really been tested.
Mm.
I mean, John Carver could go up to Rangers and do well. Do you know what I mean? It's like he hasn't really been tested. The amount of money he gets for a Scottish League team is quite good, and you don't have to be that tactically rounded to do well in Scotland. To be honest, I mean, Neil Lennon has done great things in Scotland, but in England, as a manager, really? I mean, Steven Gerrard for me, I mean, he gets it because he's managed a similar club like Liverpool, he's played for a similar club like Liverpool, where the fan base is working class and they're behind the team a lot of the time, and very, very similar circumstances. But for me, I just think I think he's like a level below what we need. I don't think he's got that experience, and it would be a very big risk for these new potential owners to come in and appoint someone like a Gerrard. I really do.
Jonny, you said you disagreed. Why is that?
Look, I think Gerrard's, he's gone to a massive club. Look, Rangers and Celtic are two institutions in Scotland, and if they were to come into the Premier League in the future, they would be a force to be reckoned with. Let's put the cards on the table. But Kyle's right; it is the Scottish Premier League. It's not the most competitive league. It's either Celtic, Rangers, and Aberdeen are flirted with potentially winning the title in the last few years when Rangers weren't involved. But it's still a big club and a big job, especially in Scotland. Rangers are well renowned for winning trophies. They've won more trophies than any other Scottish team. I think they've probably won the most leagues in the world in terms of every other club. They've got, I think, 54 trophies.
Most major trophies, yeah.
Yeah, most major trophies. So he has to go in there and try and improve that. Look, he's got the cup final against Celtic in December, and the League Cup final, and narrowly got beat. But I do take a little bit on what Kyle's saying about Gerrard in the sense that, has he really been tested properly? To an extent, he has in Scotland, but in England, there's a different kettle of fish. He probably could, to be honest with you, if you take the size of the club away from Rangers, he was probably better off going to a championship club and doing what Frank Lampard did by going to a derby.
Mm-hmm.
If he went to like a Derby or a Nottingham Forest, I was picking any random championship team that I can think of, or a Leeds, something like that. If you used to go in and do a good job there, then you could probably go, do you know what, maybe Newcastle's a step higher in terms of division, and maybe he'd go for it. But if you're asking me, would Steven Gerrard, if he was given the opportunity to go to Newcastle from Rangers, I think he would, because it's the Premier League. And I know everybody wants to manage in the Premier League, but in my personal opinion, I think not the worst manager, but I think the manager that's not really suited to this job would be Eddie Howe. Because, look, don't get me wrong, he's done an excellent job at Bournemouth.